Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, Wedgie's pilot. For those of us that remember The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, it was certainly an interesting show. It, and a similar show airing on Cartoon Network at the time, Chowder, certainly shifted the tone of Cartoon Network's programming when they aired. However, The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack also has a lost pilot, with a lot of mystery surrounding it. The 2007 pilot was set to air on Wedgies, which was a Cartoon Network block at the time that showcased pilots in hopes that they would become full-fledged shows, much like the similar Disney show from that era, Shorty McShort Shorts. Only one show from Wedgies ended up getting its own show, which was obviously Flapjack, but for unknown reasons, Flapjack's planned Wedgies appearance and airing never actually happened, resulting in the pilot becoming lost. Though a few clips can be found in a promo uploaded to YouTube, as well as the other Flapjack short set to air on Wedgies, which can be found in full on YouTube. Public Eye. Public Eye was a drama that aired for 10 years between 1965 and 1975, about an, as the wiki says, down-at-heel inquiry agent Frank Marker, and the numerous cases he would undertake. In total, the show had 7 seasons, with the first 3 airing on ABC, which is not the same as the American TV network of the same name, as this was a British show. Those first 3 seasons were victims of the tape-wiping practices commonplace on television at the time. The other 4 seasons, produced by Thames Television, are completely found, while only 5 episodes, or a little less than 1 in 8 of the episodes from the ABC seasons are found. Additionally, some episodes are partially found either in the form of short clips or just the audio from the episodes. His Honor Homer Bell. This 1955 sitcom was about the judge of the same name, where either he or other characters in the show ended up with some problem, with them solving said problem by the end of the episode and learning some sort of lesson. The series began airing on a local station in Los Angeles, and the 39 episodes produced aired in syndication for years. The series hasn't had the best track record with preservation, or even with documentation. For a large chunk of time, no one could even find any footage of the show. Today, 2 full episodes are uploaded to YouTube, but nothing besides that has surfaced. Blank Check. Blank Check was a game show that aired in the early months of 1975, hosted by Art James. It was not remembered well, with some calling it a guessing game, and with the format being as luck-based as it was, it's easy to see why it had that kind of reputation. With one player designated as the check writer, they would randomize 5 digits where certain combinations of digits would lead to bonus prizes. Then every player would be asked a question. The first person to ring in and answer correctly would get to challenge the check writer and guess the digit the writer secretly chose, and if that person guessed correctly, they then swapped places and won whatever numbers had been entered into the check. It was a complicated rule set, but it also didn't feel competitive or rewarding enough to watch, and thus was cancelled swiftly. The show hasn't aired on TV since 1975. 2 pilots of the show were made, with the first pilot being viewable on Dailymotion, and the second pilot being lost publicly as it's held at the UCLA Film Archive. Cricket and Clover. This was a planned album by the band Panic! At the Disco, sometimes called the Cabin Album, as it was created in a cabin rented by the band specifically to work on a new album in after their 2006 tour. It's said to be different than anything they've ever made. Since I've never listened to any of this band's music, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, or even if it was the intended direction of the creation of the album. What we do know is that the band wasn't happy with production, thus leaving this album scrapped. Only 2 titles are known to be from this album, 1 song which is completely found, and another song with only a few clips available. It's unknown how many more songs are completely lost. Larceny. In 1996, this short film was created by Christopher Nolan in the span of one weekend. The equipment he used was University College London Film Society equipment, as he was a member of the society. As well as this, the film was held in high regard by the UCL Film Society despite having a very low budget, as the story, characters, and shooting methods were all praised. Despite the high regard in which the film is held, the actual film itself is lost to the public. The few owners such as Ivan Cornell and David Julian were contacted and said they had copies but would not release them. Christopher Nolan himself is believed to not want the film to release, and thus, a release hasn't happened and is very unlikely to happen.
One of the first things that I drew when I was 2 years old was Fred Flintstone. I would copy the characters off television. No reason to mess with it. You don't want to mess with the Flintstones theme song. The characters will, they'll look the same. The only thing that really will change is the stories that you're telling.
Seth MacFarlane Flintstones reboot. In 2011, Seth MacFarlane announced that he would reboot the Flintstones, to mixed reception. At the time, the reboot was planned for a 2013 release and was to be a more current take on the classic cartoon from the 60s. MacFarlane compared the aim for the humor to be near the 90s episodes of The Simpsons. As the scripts were being approved by the head of Fox, Kevin Reilly, he was quoted as saying he liked it but didn't love it, and Seth at the time decided to scrap the idea. He just couldn't find a way to make Fred different from Peter Griffin, as he said in a Reddit AMA. Some production materials have been released, but it's unknown if the ones that have released are the only ones available, in addition to this script, which is of course lost.
Come on, Grant, let's get you moving.
Eric, have you checked the tyre pressure? You can't cut corners on safety, not even on the shortest trip. There you go.
Oh, he's a good boy. It's a pity he doesn't have a better home life.
Days Like These. Days Like These was an attempt at creating the popular American sitcom That 70s Show for a British audience. Obviously, whereas That 70s Show was about 6 Midwestern teenagers and used American cultural references and humor, Days Like These was a similar concept, just with British humor instead. There were 13 episodes of the show made, but only 10 aired, all in the span of about 5 months in 1999. It just wasn't as successful over there, and due to that, the show couldn't capture an audience like it did in the States. Because of the obscurity in Britain, 8 of the 10 aired episodes are found, and none of the 3 unaired episodes are found, meaning there are 5 lost episodes in totality. Action 52 Super Nintendo port. Action 52 is most known as the transparent NES cartridge with 52 games on it that retailed for $200. It was a critical and commercial flop, leading to very little sales of anything else after the original NES game. Eventually there was a Sega Genesis version, and at one point there was a planned SNES version that never made it to store shelves. The only evidence of the planned SNES version was an advertising sheet distributed to retailers, but no copies or prototypes of the planned SNES port of Action 52 have surfaced. There's conflicting evidence from developers as well, with some mentioning the SNES port and others denying its existence. Burger Shop 3. All the way back in episode 2, I talked about Burger Shop 3, which is a supposed third game in a series that, at the time of episode 2's release, hadn't been revisited. The sequel was announced over a decade before that video released. But obviously on this channel, we only revisit topics when we can update them, and I have good news. A pre-release prototype version of Burger Shop 3 has finally been released for Steam. It's a bit disappointing that after 13 years, all that's been made is a prototype that uses a majority of assets from the second game, but it's nice to have anything at all, as I pretty much thought the franchise was dead. Hopefully when the completely finished product releases, it's worth the wait.